They say blood is thicker than water, but I learned the hard way that sometimes blood can be the first to betray you. I never imagined my own sister, the girl I grew up with, shared secrets with, and protected in our darkest childhood years, could ever stoop low enough to sell off the one thing that meant the world to our father without even telling me. But when a late-night call from a trusted friend at the land office shook me to my core, I realized everything was already in motion, and if I didn't act fast, our family's legacy would be gone forever. It all started 3 months after Dad passed away. He'd left behind a sizable piece of land, a quiet spread just outside the city. It wasn't glamorous, but it was his pride. Our father had built a small barn on it himself, planted trees there, and always said it was where he felt closest to nature. Growing up, he'd take us there every weekend, teaching us how to fix fences, plant seeds, and even how to sit still and listen to the wind. After the funeral, my sister Mia and I were supposed to sort things out together. That's what we promised each other, and more importantly, that's what we promised Dad in his final days. But something about her changed once the will was read. She became distant. She made excuses not to meet. She said she was too busy with her job or her kids, and I tried to understand. But my gut told me something wasn't right. Then, one evening, I received a message from Aaron, an old friend who works at the local land registry office. "Hey man," he wrote. "Not sure if this is anything, but there's a pending land transaction under your dad's name. Looked weird to me because I remembered your dad passed not long ago. Thought you should know." My heart dropped. At first, I thought it had to be a mistake. Maybe it was paperwork from when Dad had tried to refinance the property a few years back. But something told me to check. I called Aaron immediately. He hesitated at first, bound by confidentiality, but once I told him the situation, he agreed to quietly share what he could. "It's a private buyer," he said. "Offer made in cash. And guess who submitted the transfer request? Your sister." I couldn't breathe for a second. Mia? No way. She wouldn't do this. Not without talking to me. Not without even a single mention. We were supposed to co-own the land. The will made that crystal clear. She couldn't sell it without my consent, legally or morally. But here she was, forging ahead behind my back. I spent the whole night staring at the ceiling, memories flooding in. The way Dad used to laugh while swinging his axe. The little wooden bench we built together on that land. The tree where we buried our dog Sparky when we were kids. And now it was about to be sold to some stranger? For what? Money? I decided to confront her the next day. I drove to her house, heart pounding. I wasn't even sure what I was going to say, but I knew I couldn't let it go. When she opened the door, she looked surprised, almost guilty. "Hey, what brings you here?" she asked with that nervous smile. "We need to talk." "About Dad's land," I said, keeping my voice calm. Her face changed. Instantly. "Oh, okay. What about it? You tell me." "I heard from Aaron. You filed paperwork to sell it." She looked away. I waited. Then she sighed, exasperated. "Look, I was going to tell you. But it's complicated, all right? I need the money. You don't understand the kind of debt I'm in." I stared at her, stunned. "That land isn't just property, Mia. It's Dad's legacy. You know what it meant to him. To us. I have 2 kids," she snapped. "I'm drowning. You're doing fine. You have a job. A house. I thought maybe I could just handle it and tell you after it was done." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You thought you could just take it from me?" "From him." She looked like she wanted to argue, but there was nothing left to say. She'd made her choice. And now I had to make mine. After that confrontation, I called Aaron again. I needed every piece of information: who the buyer was, how far along the paperwork was, and what my legal options were. It turns out, she'd already signed false affidavits stating she was the sole beneficiary of the land. If the sale went through, reversing it would be a legal nightmare. But since it hadn't closed yet, there was still time. I contacted a lawyer and told him everything. He was shocked, but not surprised. "You'd be amazed how often this kind of betrayal happens in families," he said. He helped me file an emergency injunction to pause the transaction and freeze any sale attempts until a full review could be conducted. I also gathered every document Dad left behind. I needed to prove that I was named co-owner in the will. Luckily, Dad kept meticulous records, and I found a notarized copy in a metal box under the floorboards of his old study. But Mia didn't stop. I got calls from relatives saying she was spreading lies about me, that I was greedy, trying to hoard everything for myself, that I didn't care about her struggles. She was playing victim, painting me as the villain. And then I found out something worse. The buyer she'd been negotiating with wasn't just some anonymous investor. He was a property flipper, a guy known for gutting land, building luxury sheds, and jacking up prices. If the sale went through, the land would be bulldozed, the barn destroyed, and Dad's place would be lost forever. I had one shot to stop this, and it meant digging deeper than ever into Mia's intentions and this buyer's history. I didn't want to expose my sister, but if I didn't, Dad's memory would be erased for a paycheck. And what I uncovered next, it changed everything. I couldn't stop thinking about that buyer, this so-called investor who Mia had secretly chosen to take our father's land. Something didn't sit right. Property flippers didn't just stumble on legacy farmland like ours without being tipped off. Someone must have told him about the land, about its value, and that it might be available under the table. That someone was likely my sister. But why him? Why this particular man? That's where things spiraled. With Aaron's help, I got a name, Daniel Cross. And when I started digging, the connections unraveled like a knot I never knew existed. Daniel wasn't just any flipper. He had a shady record of lawsuits, half-finished projects, and settlements tied to defrauding elderly homeowners. But worse, I found court records that showed he had once been involved in a foreclosure scam. The woman he conned out of her home? She had the same last name as Mia's ex-boyfriend, Jason Maddox. So I looked up Jason. Turns out, he wasn't just an ex. He was Mia's secret fiancé from 2 years ago, someone she'd quietly separated from after a financial disaster neither of them wanted the family to know about. Jason had lost thousands in a crypto scam, dragged Mia into it, and together they owed more than $90,000 in debts across multiple states. Now it all made sense. This wasn't just about my sister being desperate. This was about her covering up a past she thought was buried. And Daniel Cross? He wasn't just a random buyer. He was her way out, probably promised a cut, or some personal deal behind closed doors. The betrayal was layered. Mia had tried to erase our dad's legacy, forge documents, and work with a known scam artist just to clean up a mess she created years ago. And the worst part? She never even asked for help. She didn't trust me enough to come clean. She just acted like I didn't matter. Fueled by anger, I called my lawyer and said we needed to move faster. We sent cease and desist letters to Daniel Cross and began preparing a formal case for fraud. I submitted every document: the notarized will, proof of co-ownership, the false affidavits Mia had filed, and even emails Mia had sent to the land office posing as the sole heir. Then came the fallout. Daniel's attorney called mine, furious. He claimed his client had done nothing wrong. But we knew better. When we pushed for a discovery hearing, Daniel backed down. He didn't want his name dragged into another public scandal. And Mia? She showed up at my house that night, sobbing. I didn't know what else to do, she cried, sitting at our kitchen table, her hands shaking. Jason left me with everything. I tried to fix it myself. I didn't think you'd understand. Didn't think I'd understand? I said, Mia, I would have done anything to help you. But you didn't give me that chance. You went behind my back. You tried to sell the land Dad trusted us with like it was just property. I thought if I told you, you'd stop me. You'd make it harder. You're damn right I would have stopped you. There was a long silence between us. She looked broken. But so was I. I'll fix it, she said finally. I'll cancel everything. I'll admit what I did. And to her credit, she did. Mia submitted a formal withdrawal of the sale. She wrote a statement admitting her fraudulent filing. The land office suspended all transaction activity on the lot until further notice. We even met with Aaron together to ensure every record was restored to reflect our shared ownership. But the damage, it was deep. Trust once cracked doesn't heal overnight. A few weeks later, I visited Dad's land again alone. I sat on the old bench under the oak tree, the one we built when I was 13. The barn stood strong, weathered but proud. I thought about all those Sundays he spent hammering, planting, walking beside us, saying nothing but teaching everything. I thought about how close I came to losing all of it, not to an outsider, but to my own blood. And yet, despite it all, part of me still loved Mia. She was my sister. She made a terrible mistake, yes, but I had to believe she could learn from it. Eventually, we agreed to keep the land together. She wouldn't touch it without my knowledge again. In fact, we both signed a joint trust deed, locking any future sale decisions behind mutual agreement. Since then, she started repaying her debts, slowly but honestly. She picked up extra work, got help from a financial advisor, and even started taking her kids out to the land on weekends. Maybe she's trying to reconnect with the past, or maybe she's trying to heal. Either way, I've decided not to carry the bitterness. Not because she deserves forgiveness easily, but because Dad deserved peace. And this land was never about money or paperwork. It was about legacy, roots, family. The kind of family that stumbles but finds its way back again. Still, I've learned my lesson. Never assume loyalty. Never ignore your gut. And always, keep copies of important documents. Because sometimes, the ones closest to you are the ones who cut the deepest. And when they do, you'd better be ready. Thanks for listening to my story. If you've ever faced something like this, family betrayal, tough decisions, hard forgiveness, drop a comment. Let's talk about it. And don't forget to subscribe to Family Betrayal. More true, powerful stories are coming your way.